The Harappan civilization. The Indus Valley of present-day Pakistan and western India was the setting for one of India's earliest known urban societies. Historians have no literary evidence of the civilization, yet we know a great deal about the various aspects of the Harappan people and their civilization. In the previous video, we have talked about sources, the various sources in history. We have the literary sources, which are texts, documents, archaeological sources, which we talked about, the material remains, and the oral sources. In the context of the Harappan civilization, as we have just read, that there is no literary evidence available for the Harappan civilization. So how did archaeologists try to explain or understand the civilization itself? We look at the sources in the context of the Harappan civilization. Much of its past is derived from archaeological sources obtained from excavating the ruins of the settlement. Not that there are no literary evidence, script do occur time to time in the Harappan seals, but till date, archaeologists and historians have not been able to decipher what the script means. So we rely basically on material remains, that is monuments, pottery, tools, articles such as food grains, clothing, domesticated animals, etc. Though the archaeological evidence uncovers the truth as it was, the lack of literary evidence is a serious handicap to our overall understanding of the Harappan civilization. Mature urban civilizations like the Harappan civilization do not come up overnight. They are a long-drawn process of evolution. Hence, we see three broad divisions of the Harappan civilization, divided into three phases, that is the early Harappan, the mature Harappan, and the late Harappan phase. The early Harappan phase were associated with a distinctive pottery. Settlements were quite small and there were no large buildings. In the mature phase, stone implements that were used during the first phase slowly gave way to copper and later to bronze implements. It is at this stage that village settlements showed distinct urban attributes and ushered an era of urbanization. In the late phase, it was characterized by building of large walled settlements, the expansion of trade networks, and the increasing integration of regional communities into a relatively uniform material culture in terms of pottery styles, ornaments, seals with the Indus script. The extent of the civilization. Discovered in 1921, the Harappan civilization was spread over parts of Punjab, Haryana, Sindh, Baluchistan, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and western parts of Uttar Pradesh. We'll talk about the major sites of the Harappan civilization. That is, the Harappa on the banks of the river Ravi in the Montgomery district was the first to be excavated. The term Harappan is derived from the name of the first site excavated. The second site is Mohenjo-Daro on the river Indus in the Larkana district and is the largest Harappan settlement. Other important sites include Chanhudaro, which is the center for manufacturing carnelian beads, Lothal, a vital trade center for trading beads, gems, reaching to far-flung areas, Kalibangan, where there is evidence of a furrowed field, Banawali, where terracotta models of plough have been found, Dholavira in Gujarat, where the site locally known as Kotada Timba, meaning a large fort, probably referring to the large ruins of the fortified ancient civilization, Nageshwar, where it was a shell working site in the Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat. There are many other sites, but the civilization itself is still best known from the two cities, that is Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, both now situated in Pakistan. Mohenjo-Daro. Excavations at Mohenjo-Daro brought into light a civilization that is unique in many ways. It was an urban civilization, and city planning was its most unique feature. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had similar city planning and architecture. The artifacts recovered from excavations confirm that these two bore strong similarities, evident in settlement organizations, crafts, technologies, subsistence activities, and forms of organization. Baked and unbaked bricks were usual building materials. The bricks themselves are signs of planning. The bricks at all Harappan sites were of standard ratio. Hence we see that in every Harappan site, especially in Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the same kind of bricks were found, and these were used to build monuments, buildings, etc. The drainage system was one of the most impressive features of the Harappan civilization. It too presupposes carefully planned efforts. The plan of the lower town was laid out on a grid pattern. They were quite straight and intersected each other at right angles. This divided the city into large rectangular blocks. The street and buildings were provided with drains made of burnt bricks. The drains were covered either with bricks or stone slabs. Domestic wastewater had to flow into the street drains. The drains had manholes to facilitate cleaning. So, could all this be managed by people at an individual level, or was it the outcome of an organized effort made consciously by a central authority? The lower town at Mohenjo-Daro has ruins of residential buildings. The houses had rooms which were generally constructed around a rectangular courtyard. Remains of staircases in some of the houses suggest that the residents used them to reach to a roof or a second story. Individual houses also had baths and privies, thus providing basic amenities. The Citadel. Now, when we talk about city planning in both Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the city was divided into two. That is the Citadel, or the upper town, and the lower town. The lower town where majority of the populations lived. Proper settlements consisted of the Citadel and the lower town. The Citadel was smaller but was built on high ground, and the lower town was larger in size and a much larger population inhabited there. The Citadel contained monumental structures that were probably used for public purposes. The large buildings have been variously interpreted in terms of purpose: granaries, warehouse, collegiate buildings, and the Great Bath. The Great Bath, the most striking structure at Mohenjo-Daro. It is a rectangular tank and measures 11.88 into 7.01 meters and is 2.43 meters deep. At the north and south ends of the Great Bath, brick steps lead to the bottom of the tank. The tank is surrounded by a corridor on all four sides. There were rooms on three sides. 8 bathrooms, 4 on each side of the corridors, were provided. The tank could be emptied by a drain. Now, due to lack of literary evidence, we do not know what this bath was actually used for. So in modern sense, we can just say it is an ancient swimming pool, and it had steps from the north and the south leading to the tank. The granary. The granary was first excavated in the 1920s. Further excavation in the granary area at the Harappan resulted in scholars re-examining earlier interpretations. Although referred to as the granary, this identification by earlier archaeologists is not supported by archaeological finds. No compelling evidence has been uncovered. So in today's topic, we have covered the Harappan civilization and the use of material remains on how we try to understand the Harappan civilization. Hope you find this video useful.